in this country, attributing it to the divisive legacy of white supremacy. Is this a genuine acknowledgement of Black contribution, or does it raise deeper questions about equality, allyship, and truly those who benefit from this system? I'm joined by our royal court and our beautiful, beautiful panel. We have Marlo Layson, TV film producer. We have Erica Lewis, author, Faith in Transition. I did it! Then Moya, tax professional, and Constance Carter, wealth activist. Hi, ladies. We are really kicking off this new year with some stuff today. Now, listen, we're going to talk a lot about this, and we've got some really good video. But you all know the civil rights movement wasn't just about advancing rights for African Americans, right? It set the stage for so many other social justice movements. Think about it. The strategies they used to challenge oppression, like protests, marches, and legal battles, ended up inspiring other groups, such as fighting for women's rights, LGBTQIA rights, disability rights, and even anti-war movements. Now, what's really interesting is how it pushed for reforms in law, education, and government policies. It didn't just stop at racial equality. It helped shape a more inclusive democracy. Plus, the legal wins from that era still influence decisions today when it comes down to protecting human rights. Now, honestly, its impact hasn't faded. Activists today still look to those strategies when fighting inequality. It's like the movement handed down for a blueprint of change that just keeps working over and over through the decades. So let's see what this professor has to say about how this ties into the Asian communities.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. But the problem is our communities are divided. For Asian Americans and for African Americans, we probably have one of the worst relationships between any community.
Well, I bet you a lot of Asian Americans too don't, in my experience, don't even realize that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, there would not be 22 million Asian Americans in this country.
Thank you. What I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with Black blood?
Paid for with Black blood. So that is actually a really powerful statement. And it really did shake me to my core when I first heard that, because we are so busy all the time fighting for justice and social things, but we also see other communities benefit from our fight and our struggle. So I actually want to hear from each of you and also our viewership. How do you feel about this influencer, this professional statement that Asians owe their success in America to Black people? And I'm going to start with you, Constance.
Everybody owes their success in this country to Black people. Every race of people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, Indian people, everybody does. And, I will say, when I listen to this, it goes back to what Lyndon B. Johnson said. If you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't even know that you're picking his pockets. In fact, give him somebody to look down on and he'll give you everything he owns. What does that mean? They are they're making us have this internal fighting against each other, poor people, different races, all of those things, so that they can stay in power and keep pulling strings. They don't give a fuck about Asians, but they'll pit you again. So the Asians come over, they can do this, they can do that, and then the Asians will eat it all up, and then they'll start looking down on Black people. But they don't care about the Asian people either. But what's interesting, and hopefully we get into this conversation, is what's happening with these Ivy League schools with this whole DEI initiative and them not being able to get in. And now they want to cry wolf. It was cool when it was us. It's different now. So,
you notice how shit is different now. She said it's different now. Constance, you're so on point. Marla, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with this professor?
Absolutely. I think it's so interesting, like other people come to the United States, right? And the closer your skin tone is to assimilation, the easier their walk seems, right? So they start off, many of them, being businesses in Black neighborhoods, right? They can't just yet go to the higher end white neighborhoods to set up shop. So they start with us, right? So you would think that there would be some type of camaraderie or brotherhood because we're the initial foray into wealth for them in many cases, right? Through nail salons, hair salons, corner stores, restaurants, right? So I think it's really interesting, but it's also par for the course, right? You could say the same for Latinos. You could say the same for Indians. You could say the same for African people who come here and get sold the illusion of America, but then find out easily what the pecking order is. So I definitely agree with him.
I think he's on a point, but you saw how passionate he was as well when he was talking about it. So he really stands behind what he's saying. Moya, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with this professor?
Yes, for sure. And I like the way that when Marlo brought up their foray into society and into wealth, and then as Constance says, when they reach that higher echelon of wealth in the Ivy League schools, they don't even want them there at this point anymore either. So they're really seeing the spectrum of what Black people and African Americans have to deal with, and understanding that white people don't accept them the way that they thought that they would.
You know, I think a lot of people are going to find out in this next administration that they ain't talking about you. You're not included in the us. That's going to be, what is it they're saying now? The fuck around, find out. Okay, that is really starting to sink in with a lot of people who really didn't even understand civics or anything about our country's rules. I mean, what were they learning off of? Cliff Notes? That's just my question. So what are the historical contributions of the Black community to the civil rights that paved the way for other minority groups? Now, I'm going to start with you, Constance, and I know you can talk and you and I both can have great conversations, but I want to hear how you think and can explain how the Asian groups benefited in the real estate world.
Well, first of all, we know that they weren't as affected by redlining as we were. So when you think about historically what's happened in this country, and when they had redlining, there was some Asian redlining. There was some Asian, but not as much as, because the Asian population wasn't what it was for the same as it was for Black people. But when you think about that, that's the reason why their home ownership rates are, I think, about 60%, 70%, and ours is 40%. Okay, yes, yeah. Oh, see, look at, I didn't even know. See, I just do that off the top. So they're at 60% and we're at 43%. Here's the thing though, 2022, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead to the positive. In 2022, we have the highest number jump in home ownership out of all the races in 2022. So I just want to give us props right there. I know that's off topic, but I just want to go ahead and give some Black people some kudos right now, because we doing a damn thing out here. Because we're listening, we're doing the financial literacy. The wealth gap will not be widened because we are taking action. But going back, yes, they've been able to benefit from a lot of grants, a lot of programs that were not given to us, that they were able to get by virtue of real estate. So, yeah.
So, you know, they did benefit from that because a lot of the acts that came out definitely included any kind of discrimination, and that depended on everybody. That wasn't just us. So I think that where we have the problem is people just assume when we talk about one community that it is a totally separate situation when it comes to other communities, when no, it does not. We all are tied in some kind of way, and we all piggyback off of the things that happen in the government that fall down to us. So Marlo, I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to ask for kind of a rapid answer. You are really smart and really educated when it comes to our government. So, you know, how do you think our government saw that before? Did they anticipate this was going to benefit everybody, or did they just really see that it was going to be in the Black community?
Absolutely. I've said before, they're always several steps ahead, right? They're always future planning. And so they absolutely knew with the Asian population as it was growing that it would be a benefit. And they also look at the culture of Asian people, right? These people are supposed to be docile, they're supposed to be very easy to get along with. as opposed to us marching in the streets, screaming and yelling for our rights. So it's very easy for them to do a little switcheroo, right? And open the door a little bit wider for the Asian community than us. But they absolutely knew in the 1930s what the Asian population would be, as there was an influx of people coming in after World War II. So they knew. They always know.
They always know. You got that right. With that, we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back to continue this conversation.
Hey, if you're just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. I am Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood, and I am the proud producer of this show. So I hope that every day when you join us, you leave a little smarter than you came, because that's the point. Otherwise, why are you watching? So if you want to receive notices for when we go live, Fly Nubian Money goes live every single day. That's Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you don't know, now you know. All you have to do is text the word Queens. That's Queens. That's Queens to 87948. That's 87948. That's Queens to 87948. Yes? If you want.
I want y'all to know I dance every time she says 87948. Yes, that's really simple, y'all. You ain't even got to dial no numbers. Just text in the word Queens, Queens to 87948. Yes, because we go on 5 days a week, even holiday weeks, y'all. Even holiday weeks. This is the first week. This is January 3rd, and we are live. So you don't want to miss our show. You want to make sure that you get that text so you can join in on the conversation, because we love all of our viewers. And I see y'all out there. I see you all out there. I see Dr. Vibe. I see Paul. I see Dennis. I see Jenny. Thank you for being here. We truly wouldn't be here if you're not here participating with us. So you don't want to miss it. Text the word Queens, Queens to 87948. Yes. Look at a couple of stats that we can throw into this conversation. So I think it's really important for us to understand some of the background in this. So look at the education access. And Constance, you alluded to this earlier. While 74% of Asian Americans hold college degrees, only 26% of Black Americans do, partly due to systematic barriers. And where I want to throw in right here on that graphic before we move to the next, let's also not forget, with this whole movement of moving back DEI, moving back things that has to do in what they call wokeness, one of the things that they, meaning the big old picture of the oppressors, don't want to talk about is things like our historical Black colleges, and they're thinking that it's only for Black people. No, our colleges are open to everyone. In fact, I just watched a whole account of an Asian gentleman who's a Q that went to a Black historical college, and very proud of that. So, you know, they take that into account, but then they don't want to talk about what our struggles help them do. So Moya, do you think that other minority groups truly understand the sacrifices that Black people made during the civil rights movement?
I don't feel like they really understand it. And the part that is unfortunate is when they go out and they advocate, it's almost as if they're advocating against themselves. And that's the part that we want them to realize, is that we're all in this together. And that's what we really have to work towards.
I think so too. Now, where you are, Moya, are you seeing that this is a definite impact? Because, you know, LA is pretty diverse. So with the schooling and things, do you see people talking about this? Are they against the DEI things that are coming out? What's the conversation in your area?
So it's definitely, they're open to it. But I think one of the things that's really, I guess you could say, ruffling feathers is the fact that when they talk about pushing back DEI, they're pushing back a lot of areas that a lot of people can benefit from, a lot of racial groups. But what happens is when they think of DEI, the Black face is there because we've fought for it. So our face is rightfully there. But one of the things that they take away is that it really helps everybody. So I don't know if this is like a marketing issue, or is it just an issue of accepting the fact that Black people have a right to claim, yes, we did this. One of the things that he said in the videos is from the blood of Black people. So yes, it is something that we have to recognize, but still understand that it's for everybody that benefits.
Baby, he said all sorts of power words that got me going. Like, he definitely touched on that. He also mentioned that, the oppressors, he had some very powerful language that I think typically right now are slapping people in the face, because they're so bold about saying that everybody who's woke is wrong, that he's slapping back with this very powerful language that needs to be heard. So Marlo, how do you think that DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, impacted opportunities for non-Black minorities in America?
Oh, it skyrocket opportunities for them, right? I remember when the iPhone first came with the facial recognition, right? There was this push for Asian people to get in tech and for tech jobs to hire Asian people, because any Asian could open any other Asian's iPhone. So I think that, they've since changed it, right? It was an early bug, but they realized there weren't enough diversity in even Asian faces in tech for them to not be able to, anybody with those features to be able to open anybody's phone. So I think, when we look at affirmative action, we look at DEI, the biggest beneficiary is white women. In the next 10 years, we're going to see fewer white women in positions of power, because there is not this barrier, right, that Black people fought for everybody to get the benefit of. Constance brought up the affirmative action with the Ivy League universities. They actually sued, and now the numbers haven't really significantly gone up, right? So you get rid of affirmative action because too many Black people are getting into these colleges, and the numbers are staying the same, which means that people have been getting in on merit the whole time. Save for a few legacy students, right? But outside of that, people have been meeting the mark to get into these universities on their own. So I think that white women are going to suffer under this anti-DEI regime, and so are other minorities, absolutely.
And I think that's the point where they're going to wake up and see that they've been standing on a false narrative in their heads. They see themselves as being different when they're standing on the foundation of the principles that we fought to establish. And you are starting to see it. You're really starting to see it in social media, where they are now waking up to what that really means for them. But now it's a little too late to do all that. I am definitely at the phase right now in my life where I'm like, don't ask me to do it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm part of the 92%. Okay. You figure it out, because I'm not going to help you once again stand on my back to get the benefits that you get. Now, with that being said, there is a wonderful TikToker that I do follow, and she talks real stuff. So I want to bring up one of her videos that we can launch our next conversation into. And here she is.
Please be patient with me because there's so much here. I think the quick answer is that Asian Americans are given white privilege, especially the Asian Americans who fit the model minority stereotype. The quid pro quo for receiving that privilege is upholding white supremacy culture, which means being anti-Black. I was talking with somebody last night who was pointing out that the Civil Rights Amendment was passed in 1964, but also in the 1960s, the United States opened the door to Asian immigration. So now you have an influx of racial minorities who knew nothing about the history of white violence against Black people, knew nothing about the Black civil rights movement, so they arrived with civil rights not understanding how that came to be. And also it effectively erased the United States' own anti-Asian history, because Asian Americans came in not necessarily knowing about the Chinese Exclusion Act or the internment of Japanese Americans in the United States during World War II. And I think that Asian Americans are used as a buffer between the Black community and the white community, because in the 1960s, there was almost a racial reckoning. The white power structure almost had to face accountability for the history of violence against Black people. But instead, Asian Americans were inserted and we're pit against each other, so that we're always up against each other, and that basically like white supremacy escapes accountability. And
That woman always spits truth. I follow her very much, and you wouldn't believe the hate that she gets from her own community for spitting truth. And she still stands on her truths, and she still continues to fight for that. So, Constance, that brings me to a question. Do you think that there's enough acknowledgments toward the Black contributions from other groups outside of us? Or do you just think that they choose to blindly not look at it?
Yeah, no, I absolutely not. White America has done a really, really good job promoting this propaganda against Black people throughout the world, right? We've never gone anywhere and committed genocide against anybody. We've never raped and pillaged communities. We've never oppressed people. We didn't colonize people. But the narrative of Black people is that we're violent, that we're lazy. How can you be lazy when you built a country for 250 years, that all of these negative stereotypes about Black people? And so then you have everybody else, because he who has the pen writes the story, right? They're writing the history books. They're putting the propaganda out there in the media. So it looks like we are the people that they say that we are. And so, of course, they're not going to acknowledge our contribution and who we really are. We are definitely a misunderstood people, but I also think there's some responsibility with us in terms of how we show up, what we're doing, how we are operating, and that's a minority. All Black people ain't gangbanging. All Black people don't live in poverty. All Black people ain't doing all these negative things, but that's what's showcased and highlighted. And that's what everybody's seeing. And that's the representation of us as a whole, which is not true.
That's right. Moya, I heard you. I saw you.
So, Constance, I agree with everything that you're saying, especially the part about accountability. But one of the things that I feel like we have to take ownership of is it's very difficult to say they painted this narrative of me when the music proliferates a certain narrative. We can say this is what they push. Yes, of course. But when do we stand up and take accountability for how we show up?
But you got to understand, it's all about money. And think about it. If they are only going to, they're not paying for the love music. They're not paying for the positivity. They are putting money out there so that we can talk about the things that are going to kill each other. And when you come from an impoverished mindset and you ain't never had nothing, and they're saying, here's $1 million for you to talk about, all of these negative things. What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to continue starving, or you think they're going to take that bait? And so it's because they're not giving the money. Just like Tank said, he said, our violence isn't the issue, it's our love. They don't want to see us doing love songs. They want to see us promoting violence. And that's where they're putting all the money. So we're just pawns. They're the puppet masters. And I understand the accountability part, but when you come from poverty, what do you do?
So what do we say about the 90s era music? 90s, we had NWA, which was the hardest of the hard. And then we also had others as well. We had SWV, we had Escape.
Promoting that stuff. We also had positive rap. We had the Jungle, but they don't put money into that.
It was also in its infancy, right? And nobody had even made a lot of money at that point, right? But once NWA pops, because you name check them and they see how much money that makes, the only thing that these C-suite people, that the record label execs care about, is the bottom line. So once we see that this we sold 300 million albums with an advisory sticker on it. Let's put advisory stickers on all the songs, right? Like that, it is just capitalism recognizing what makes money. And honestly, that's a consumer problem, because if we as the consumers, if we as the people who make the culture popular reject it, there's nothing to sell.
I think you're all right in the fact of that, but we also have to remember, don't forget, the main talk of this, let's tie this back into what's happening in the Asian music world right now, okay? BTK is all based on R&B and rap, okay? They see exactly what we did. They studied us. And what did they do? Now that they've got that unlocked, they're buying up all of the music catalogs. They're buying their own stages. They're buying their own production companies. And soon it's only going to be one or two people who are big conglomerates who's going to handle the whole music world. So this all ties back. But you can see, and since we're talking about Asian success. Let's be very honest. Everybody wants all of us except the struggle. And with that, we'll be right back.
You want to grow your money and not blow your money, as Constance says, check us out at flynubianmoney.com. There's all kinds of resources, programs, videos, resources. In 2024, there's no reason to be broke when there's information all around us. So get your money right. flynubianmoney.com.
Get your money right. We are helping you. 2025 is here, baby, and there are a lot of changes coming you better be ready for. So if you don't know where to start, we can help you get there. So go ahead, go to flynubianmoney.com, get your free resources, and make sure that you start watching and doing small little things. If you don't look at the big picture, let's start you with a small step, because you cannot get to the big picture if you don't take the first step. We are your first step. Go to flynubianmoney.com, get your free resources, and get started. Now, we are talking about, how other cultures and communities are benefiting from the civil rights movement and all this stuff that's going on. And DEI came on. Now, listen, I want to ask you, Marlo, do you think that Black people have benefited as much from DEI initiatives as other groups?
I don't think that. I mean, because if you look at the stats, DEI is new, right? DEI is the last 4 or 5 years they've been rolling out these diversity, equity, and inclusivity initiatives. Before that, there was affirmative action, right? That would have been the precursor to DEI. DEI is kind of how you should act. Affirmative action is kind of open the door. And I said it before, the biggest beneficiaries statistically were white women. It put white women in corporate executive roles. It put white women in leadership roles and management roles where they could just check a minority box, right? Because none of this specifically says to help Black people. Affirmative action isn't written to help Black people. DEI isn't written to help Black people. These things are to make sure that companies and schools look like the world around us, right? And they're not specifically white or whitewashed. And so I think that white women will, again, they will be the ones who will be the most affected by these changes over the next 10 years.
Can I add to that? Y'all remember, y'all ever used to watch What's Happening? Y'all remember that episode where Shirley got hired at that job, and she got hired because it was affirmative action and she couldn't do the job, and they just put her in there because she was Black? Y'all remember that?
I do.
Okay, you old like me. We old. That was but that was America's. That was one of their ways to promote this idea that you have incompetent people in these positions, and this is just the propaganda that have just been put out there. Now, what Elon Musk has what's called MEI. Have you guys heard about that?
Yep.
Meritocracy. Yeah. MEI. So meritocracy, equity, and inclusion, and that's just about the person who's the most talented for the position gets the job. But in reality, it's the people who are. It's mostly nepotism. It's mostly people who look like you. It's mostly people who have networked and have relationships, have previous relationships. Most people who get hired, it has nothing to do with their talent or their skill like they're trying to portray. They just don't want to see Black faces in those places. But that just means we got to create our own, start our own, and then we got to start doing what they do and hire people who look like us.
I totally agree with that. And I also think that we need to create these types of things within our own community. We have the resources. We just need to get together to do it. I do want to acknowledge one of our comments. I want to acknowledge it and say I was going to agree with it. Sorry. Realize you are simply creating excuses to do nothing for yourself, expecting changes from everyone else.
On my page, because I got all the trolls on my page saying that kind of shit.
Moya, do you agree with that?
So this is the thing. I think you hit something very important. It's the same thing that Marlo said. And it's just the same thing throughout history in terms of when they want to come up, they come up through us. But when we want to come up, we attempt to assimilate into what it means, what we expect them to think of us. But if we accepted us from the beginning, then we would be able to make the moves that we need to make. So for example, in schools, they had this whole pushback about ebonics. Remember that whole thing of ebonics, like using that type of word. But when you look at advertisement right now, it's filled with ebonics. It's filled with our cultural colloquials that we use. So all of a sudden, so it's us not accepting us. So I feel like once we accept us and we show up more like Constance, right? Like in here, like, this is me, you can accept me or what? Then I believe that we will start making the strides that we're looking to see in others. It's just us looking us in the mirror and saying, I'm good enough to be me and to show up as me.
Amen.
I agree. We have some more facts that we want to share with you. This is a really good conversation. I think we can talk on this stuff all day long and all day tomorrow too, all through the weekend. But let's look at a couple of more facts that we can draw upon. Asian wealth versus Black wealth. In 2022, the median household income for Asian Americans was $87,243 compared to $46,073 for Black Americans. And that's pretty far apart. And I think that's something we definitely have to look at. But we're always on the bottom. Impact of Civil Rights Act 1964. The Civil Rights Act not only prohibited racial discrimination, but also inspired similar movements for other minority groups.
So can you go back to the can you go, and I do understand they hold the senior roles in techs, but in 2022, the median household income was for Asians, right? They are the ones who are owning all the businesses that we are patronizing. They're the ones that have just like Marlo said, the nail salons and the hair places. They'll put a black face at the counter, but they'll be watching you on them damn cameras and make sure your black ass ain't stealing nothing. But we patronize them because we're consumers. We do more consumption than anything, and they're the investor. They're investing their money. They're the business owners, and so that's why we got to change the narrative. Yes, they do. They are working in tech at a higher rate than we are too. But if we think about the things that they are selling us, why can't we sell it ourselves? That's how they making the money, y'all, from us.
Yeah. Which brings me to a question, because Constance, I have to tell you, that's also worldwide. In Portugal, there is no Walmarts and things like that. There are Chinese stores. That Walmart over here are the Asian stores, and they're all over the world, and they know how to tap into your needs wherever they are. So I'm going to ask you, Marlo, do you think that allyship between Asian and Blacks is genuine or performative? Because when we know all the stories, when we see all the movies, we have jokes running in our movies about how when we go in and we're being followed and and things of that nature. So do you think that this is something that we can overcome, or is this just all talk?
I mean, I haven't seen true allyship, if I'm being honest. I mean, everybody was out there with a flag in 2020 talking about Black Lives Matter, right? Because they just were bored being in the house. But in actuality, I haven't seen any sort of outreach between Asian communities and Black communities where I sit in terms of us coming together and trying to build some type of collective understanding or collective success or anything like that. So I don't even know. I mean, obviously, this man, the scholar who we're talking about, what he was talking about at the top of the show, obviously he's having these conversations from what he's saying within Asian communities, right? So he's educating his community, which is what he should be doing. But yeah, I haven't seen any kind of overlap or collaboration between Black people and Asians in terms of looking for equity. I see us arguing and fighting over crumbs. I see us upholding stereotypes created by white people, right? There's as many negative Asian stereotypes. Not as many. There are Asian stereotypes and there are Black stereotypes, right? And they all have a singular creator. And so I think that, assimilation is real. Being a model minority is real. People want to impress white people for whatever reason. That is real. And I think unless we get past those types of things, we're going to still be having this little silly infighting between us and these other groups. And again, fighting for the crumbs.
Can't hear you. We cannot hear you.
I'm not muted. Okay, all right. What I'm saying is the more that they see us down in the pits, it's like the Coliseum. They see us down here in the pits fighting amongst ourselves. The elites are up there just enjoying themselves, because as long as they're keeping us fighting down in the pits, they can go and do whatever they want to do. And on that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. Yes, yes, yes. We are on Spotify. So if you can't watch us, you can listen to us. All you have to do is search Fly Nubian Money and we will appear. All of our episodes. Make sure that you leave a 5-star rating and reviews so other people that come along and are looking for a good show to watch, they'll follow us too. If you are interested in being on Fly Nubian Money, sorry, I don't have any spaces. I'm just playing. If you are interested in being a queen or a king on Fly Nubian Money for the day, please reach out to me. I'm at info@realvirtual.net. That's info@realvirtual.net. Also, if you need help with your business, go ahead and send me an email for that too. Okay. I've said enough. Now back to the show.
We got magic. Yes, we do. We have this magic little email that does a whole lot of things. So we want you to help increase your business, right? You can't do everything. It's called a ball of confusion. There are some things that you can delegate that we can help you with. So all you need to do is to email us. Now, how hard is that? It's not hard at all. Go ahead and email us. Tell us what you need, all right? At info@realvirtual.net. Let me spell that now because it's spelled a little different. info@REELVIRTUAL.net. Go ahead and help us elevate your business by allowing you to focus on what's more important in your business and let us do the back work. All right. Listen, I want to hit this comment, but then I want to hit this video again because we have had people join us who may not have seen it. But Sonia Young says, Black folks don't need to be thinking about coming together with nobody except ourselves. Period. The end. Full stop. Let's hit this video and we'll be right back.
I always tell people the day the Latino, African American, Asian, and other communities realize that they share the same oppressor is the day we start winning. But the problem is our communities are divided. For Asian Americans and for African Americans, we probably have one of the worst relationships between any community.
Well, I bet you a lot of Asian Americans too in my experience, don't even realize that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, there would not be 22 million Asian Americans in this country.
Thank you. What I have been trying to teach the Asian community is like, friends, do you understand that your success, your prosperity, your civil rights that you enjoy right now was paid for with Black blood?
Black blood. All right, listen. I got another comment. Boy, you guys, our family, our viewership family, we love you so much. This is why this show is awesome. We love to hear from you. We love your comments. We're reading them. We are reading. We're seeing that they're hot. We're trying to hit them all, but keep the conversation going. So Mindful Moment says we have to move past trying to collaborate. They've shown us they don't want to and will always do for self. We need to do the same. Now, this ties into the comment I said before we watched the video. So, Constance, you had a very powerful response to that. So I want you to tap into this. What are your thoughts about that?
My response, I just did the fist. That's all I did. That was my response. But solidarity. We in solidarity on that, sis. No, it's so exhausting trying to go across the aisle and hey, everybody, come here, come. I'd rather use my energy on my people to bring us forward. Because you think about the Jewish community, they are less than 1% of the population, but they have 50% of the wealth. Why? Because they practice collective economics. They do business with each other. They said we don't go outside our community unless there's nobody in our community that could actually do the work for us. We talk about wealth. We sit down and we talk about business ownership with our children, with our families. That's what we need to be doing. Don't give a damn about what the Asians are doing. Asians are insulated politically. They have the lowest voter turnout, but they're least affected. Why? Because they practice collective economics. You have a Chinatown. You don't have black towns nowhere unless it's somewhere impoverished with no local economies, with no big box stores. You got liquor stores. You got check cashing places. You got Church's Chicken and some couple of churches on the block, and that's about it. But you have no real economy. But that was by design. That's called urban decay, when they moved all the stuff out of the urban areas on purpose to increase the blight. But they are working together in their own communities, building their own communities. We got to do the same. Don't give a damn about reaching out to them. Let's practice the African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together with each other. Don't worry about nobody else.
You forgot one more thing they always give us. They always give us an MLK Boulevard. And did y'all know that yeah, that's right. There are stats. If you go back and look at the stats about how many MLK Boulevards are going through our community and lead absolutely nowhere, you would absolutely be shocked. Moya, do you think that DEI initiatives have done enough to close the wealth gap for Black peoples? Because as we've seen, we're always on the lower rung. So do you think that these initiatives have done enough for our communities?
No, because I don't believe that that's what they were meant to do, was to close the wealth gap. I believe it was meant to put a Band-Aid on what was happening in 2020 and with the Black Lives Matters movement. Because as we've been saying throughout the show, affirmative action was before that. And so what it is that we really have to do is we have to look inside of ourselves to see what can we do, right? With integration, as one of the comments said, we've already looked behind the seal. We already know what it's like to be integrated. We know nothing's better. Everything in terms of our collective wealth is in fact worse. So now that we know, I think it's time that we separate. We practice separatism and we focus on what we need to do as a collective in order to go further.
Amen.
All right. So that goes back to a lot of the Marcus Garvey principles, right? Okay. A lot of people don't even, if y'all don't know that name, I'm going to need you to go, as Constance said, Google that shit. Because it's really important for you to know that we have roots that are talking about this, that we aren't just the only ones who've been talking about it in the here and now. This has been talked about for generations upon generations. So Marlo, do you think that non-Black minorities are sometimes used to buffer, to maintain the status quo in the white dominated systems?
Absolutely. Look at the 2024 election and the stats in that election, right? You see these communities that are adjacent to each other a lot of times. A lot of times, if you have a heavy Black and Latino population, those neighborhoods are normally adjacent to one another. And the people couldn't be more different, right? I think that we, as Constance said, and Moya as well, working within our own, right? That's something that we once mastered because we had no choice, right? And then they burned it down. So some people were in fear. They drowned the communities. Some people lived in fear. When we come back around and we have this opportunity again to build through these civil rights initiatives, we choose as Black people to partner with white people, right? Because the ice was colder, because we thought the grass was greener, because we thought the money was longer, because we thought the food tastes better. All of these things have turned out to be myths, right? And I think that we need to just tuck our tails, say, it was wrong. We got the corporate jobs and all of that was cool, but we saw other people elevating in the jobs beyond us, right? And they kept us at somewhere middle management and everybody else was kind of excelling. Everybody else was able to get their kids to school, medical school, low debt, all the things. We weren't able to do that in the same volume, right? So I think we've said it many times, and I'm just going to echo what the other ladies have said, that working within our own community is what's going to pull us up and get us in a position where these conversations are less and less relevant. These conversations about, why don't they love us? Why are they making us fight the people over there? Why? The puppet master will be gone once we buffer the community in a way where they're really pretty much irrelevant, because at the end of the day, they only care about money. So when you build that money up, it ain't gonna be too much shut the fuck up they could tell us.
Say that shit. Say that shit. Say that
And
shit. Say that shit. Say it. Say it. Say it.
Go ahead,
I think
Moya.
it's also important to add with what Marla was saying, like when we get the corporate jobs, I think it's also important to take it back to the time of our grandma. Like our grandma always had a job, and she also had the side job where she also did catering on Saturdays. She also cooked. She also, did other things. So if we get to a place where we have the both incomes until we're ready to step out fully with that business, I think that's an important part to add when we talk about building up ourselves to get ready to be self-sustaining.
Yeah.
Baby,
And
grandma
you know what?
always
Listen, we're going to talk about collective economics till the wheels fall off. I don't care how many times a day we say it, how many days a week we say it. We need to be saying it every single day until it rings true to the people who are listening. Y'all need to understand how important it is for us to work together. I don't know if you guys really understand that, but that's the secret sauce. That's the formula. Y'all talking about we crabs in the barrel. Stop focusing on the negative and let's start focusing on working together. What can we do to work together? And let's do that. Who gives a fuck about the crabs in the barrel? Let's work together.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Now,
I hope
listen,
you're not watching.
we are so honored to have someone who is considered a MAGA in here. And listen, baby, I know you're sitting down and you're taking notes from us because you hit the right show. You're trying to take everything we got but the struggle. So go ahead and continue to take your notes, baby. You're still welcome here. It just means that you're trying to learn something and we're not going to let you twist to your narrative. Now, listen, we have another video that I want to bring up and it'll continue our conversation. Not that we really need a whole lot to keep moving with this conversation, but I do want to acknowledge this video. We'll be right back.
White supremacy.
It just means a few little things that we need to hear. And that, listen, he got your attention, right? So listen, Moya, how do Black people feel about being recognized as the backbone of social justice movements in America? We know we talk amongst ourselves, and of course, not just one person speaks for all of us. But for the most part, how do you feel like we talk about how we feel about how we're the ones who've been the backbone of America? Because God knows we built it.
My question is, do we know it? Like, we built it, yes, but do we know it? And do we stand on it? Do we stand in it? And I don't believe we do when we have certain types of discussions. It doesn't feel like we know enough. It feels like the education needs to happen more.
And I think that's what they're really working hard on and making sure that we don't do, right? With all the book banning and all the pulling and all of the things that they're doing now to make sure that our history is not being told, because what they want to hide is our accomplishments and our Black excellence. So Marlo, how does the success of the Asian community in America compare to the ongoing struggles of Black Americans?
I don't think you can compare the two, right? I don't think it's fair to us to look at them, who, as Constance,
my mama gonna get you,
Miss Carter's daughter. she already kind of mentioned how the Asian community is insulated, right? They back there in the back of whatever city it is, they are isolated. They got everything that they need right there, and they don't have to worry about intermingling. And I think that we need to be more conscious of that, right? I think that that's something. It's convenient for us to go to the neighborhood store that the Asian people run or the Latino people run, as opposed to going wherever the Black-owned store location may be, if there is one, right? So a lot of times we fall into this idea of convenience and easy access, and that ends up pushing Black producers and Black sellers out on the fringes, because redlining and blight and all of those things have made it easy for them to come in and rent that store that used to be Black owned. You know, I'm from New Orleans. I could remember a time every corner store was Black owned. We left for a little while, but I was in the military. We came back. Every store was not Black owned anymore. And it's like a light switch. and it happened, but they were able to acquire those properties easily because of blight, right? Because of all of these systems that have been put in place to make it seem like we are who they've always said we are. Everybody needs to stay away from us except to reach out and receive our money, and then they need to turn their backs and not deal with us. And I think until we love ourselves, I think Moya mentioned us seeing ourselves as the builders, seeing ourselves as these people who have laid this foundation in this country. Until we take ownership of that, we're always going to kind of miss the mark, because it's easy to say it, but for you to really believe that your ancestors toiled on this land and built it, for you to really believe that Black people are the epicenter of culture in this country and in the world, you have to act as if that's in your DNA. And I think that we all aren't there just yet. And until we're there, we're going to miss the mark.
Missing the mark. That's right. Missing the mark. Listen, we're going to step back for just a second, take a deep breath. That was powerful words. I'm going to let that soak in. Did you hear that, Mega? Did you hear it? Did you take your notes? All right, then. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Constance Carter. Where am I? I am on a yacht in the Baltimore Harbor, and I am doing my 7-figure strategic planning solo, baby. I plan on having a 7-figure year. I partnered with the Fly Nubian Money, and we are putting together a training that's going to help you to put together your 6- and 7-figure ecosystem. Yes, there are things that you need to do, strategies you need to put in place so that you can implement and have a 6 to 7-figure year if you don't already have one. If you got a 6-figure year, let's go ahead and get you a 7-figure one. If you got a 5-figure year, let's get you a 6-figure. Let's get you there. Join me, the Fly Nubian Money Club, and let's grow your money in 2025.
Speak on it, Constance. Speak on it.
Yes, listen, you guys, I'm so excited for our roadmap to a 6 and 7-figure year. We are not going to be doing it tomorrow, unfortunately, but it gives you a little bit more time to prepare, because I have some amazing information for you all. So we're not doing it tomorrow, which is the 3rd. We're actually the 4th. We're going to be meeting on the 11th. And I'm excited about meeting with y'all and answering your questions and putting you guys up on some real serious game. This is the stuff that I love, and I may teach a little bit too much because I love to teach and share and provide information so much, but I'm gonna try to, contain myself. But I'm gonna be dropping some really, really good nuggets. So make sure you guys sign up and make sure you're there on the 11th, on January the 11th.
I'm excited. Because we helping you to level up, right? And there's a 30-day free trial, y'all. So, what are you waiting for? All these trials coming out, all these other places you sign up for. Why not do something that's going to help you level yourself up in 2025? Constance knows what she's talking about, y'all. She's got a lot of history and success behind her, and she is sharing that with you. And she did not say just 6 figures, okay? She said 7. And we want to make sure that you can level up to that. So make sure that you sign up at flynubianmoneyclub.com today. You're not going to miss out. You're not going to miss out. You're going to do this right now. Ooh, go sign up now. All right. So Goddess Elizabeth says, lack of unity is not the original problem. Systems were put in place to dismantle any form of unity. Read the letter of Willie Lynch. Post-traumatic slavery syndrome is real and present. And I know you talk about that a lot, Constance. But Marlo, do you think that Black people are too often seen as the fixers of systematic inequality without receiving the due credit?
Yeah, we've been doing it. We've been doing it. Like Black liberation and Black revolution has always been kind of like leading the way in this country, right? There's newspapers that were founded even before the end of slavery by Black people that have been communicating the struggle. I feel like, honestly, the people are so comfortable with Black people being out front in these issues, they just expect it. I think that people just expect Black people to get out with our banners and our flags and our signs and start marching and start demanding action. And that also is unfair to us, because who else gonna do it, right? Everybody else gets a benefit on the back end from it, but nobody wants their face out front. Nobody wants to be the person in the paper staring down the barrel of the police gun, trying to make things right in this country. And so I think, I don't know, just separation, just separate it, just break it all up and let people do their own thing. I don't know, because it is exhausting. I said it yesterday. All of this systemic stuff is very exhausting.
Me and the gremlins, you're constantly dodging 24/7. Listen, we've had some really great conversation today. It is definitely one that still needs to continue. This is not the end of it. We are seeing a lot of changes and a lot of things that are trying to be taken away. Don't want to always focus on what's being taken away, because sometimes you can take that and turn it into more power. Constance has said it many times, so have I, so has everyone on the panel. We have to harness our own power. And if there is just someone in our community that doesn't want to go, okay, they don't want to go. Go find your group that does want to go with you, right? So we've talked about a lot. Hour is already up. Can't even believe it. I'm over here just like buzzing. I'm probably going to sleep tonight thinking about this conversation. So I want to hear your final thoughts and where we can find you. And we'll start with you, Moya.
So one of the things that I really loved about this conversation is it brought to light really what's needed for all of us to is
we lost Moya. Go.
Okay, so what's needed for us is to really accept us and accept the power that we have. And once we accept that power that we have, I believe we'll be able to move further. Because as someone said, systematic racism has been there, but our wealth creation has it been in the same area. And we haven't had the level that we've had in terms of the cities that were the Black Wall Street. So there really is something too when we come together and we practice what it is we're preaching about, building wealth. My name is Moya. You can find me on Instagram at moya.business.
Make sure you do that. Tax season is upon us. And there is your expert right there. No need to look any further. Go on and reach out to her and stalk and chicken hawk, like I always say. You need to make sure that you follow all of us. Marlo, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
My final thoughts are practice collective economics. Y'all go into these stores, these nail salons, these corner stores. The people don't treat y'all well, and you still go back. You still spend your money. You keep your standing appointment to get those eyebrows plucked and waxed, right? Do the same for Black people. I hear all the time every kind of complaint that there is about why you don't frequent Black business. So if we're talking about building Black wealth and also about why you don't frequent Black businesses, it seems to me we should stop having the conversation, because that's a circular conversation that is never going to reach a fruitful end. So frequent Black business, start a Black business, mind your Black business, and be kind. Just because we're talking about collective economics, it doesn't mean that you have to be nasty or dismissive toward other people. We just, as a group, need to be looking forward, trying to figure out how we can shift some of this data, right, that gives us more of a positive look as the inventors of cool, as the purveyors of style, as the builders of this motherfucker, right? We need to own it and come together as a people so that we could get the promise that we are told is waiting for us, and not the one that's in heaven. We need to get the promise that's here on this land.
Thank you.
You're looking for me? My Instagram handle is right there beside me. Just come and follow me. I'll be doing things. I'm not going to give y'all a long, drawn-out speech because the girl is trying to make her mind up to do content on this here internet, because that too is exhausting. But go ahead.
Yes, you're doing good. You're doing good. Now listen, I need y'all to go stalk and hawk her, because she is on a mission, and this mission just might help you too. A couple of us are trying to join in her journey as well, but we're going to watch her get them guns up and make sure that you follow her as well. Our beautiful flower girl, our mega girl, listen, baby girl, You know you want the lips and the hips and the ass, and you know you're shaking it as well. We already know you do. So you came here for a lesson. Gadget got it. Keep the notes going. We're not done yet because we haven't had our final thoughts from Constance, and I'm pretty sure she can spank you and make you cry all the way home. Constance, what are your final thoughts, and where can we find you?
You know, I seen this comment. It said Black people always been each other's worst enemy. Then people have no power over us without or but for us. I'm just saying. And that is absolutely unequivocally wrong. You have drank the Kool-Aid of white supremacist propaganda that has been shoved down your throat. Black people have always, you got to think about why is the effort so strong to oppress one people? Because we're powerful. I want to go back to 1955 when J. Edgar Hoover said the biggest threat to America was Negro unity. Why? Because they know that we're a powerful people. Every time we've built wealth, they've destroyed it. We can talk about Black Wall Street all day. We can talk about Greenwood. We can talk about Rosewood. We can talk about all those communities. We can talk about the communities where they have put lakes and rivers through our community by eminent domain. We could talk about the communities where they put freeways through our communities. We could talk about the Central Park where they put a park through our. This happens so often, y'all. So every time we take 2 steps forward, they push us 10 steps back. You got to wonder why. And so the way, and I'm going to say this until my face turns blue, the way that we can be insulated is if we start doing for ourselves together. I'm excited about a MAGA presidency. Not because I believe in the principles or anything about what the Republican Party is doing, but hopefully this is our wake-up call to come together, to be self-sufficient, to be independent, and the illusion of equity and inclusion is gone. And so now we can start handling our business and working together. That's what I want for us. So I am so passionate about working with Black people and closing the wealth gap. That's what my TED Talk was about. It's called Google that shit if you ain't seen it. It's one of the best that I've ever seen. But my mission in closing the wealth gap is through Black women. There's an African proverb that says that when you teach a man, you teach an individual, but when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. And so I am, in fact, I was just sharing with Tierra, our producer, we're getting ready to release our book called Unbreakable. And we have an anthology getting ready to come out with the Net 7 Collective next week. It's going to be so dope. I can't wait to share it with you guys. But I am coaching Black women to be authors, to be entrepreneurs, to be investors, to increase their net worth to 7 figures. Our next cohort starts at the end of this month. So if you are a Black woman or you know a Black woman, tell them to holler at me. Go to bookwithconstance.com. And where can you find me? Everywhere. I am Constance Carter.
Easy breezy. She made it easy, right? So you want to make sure you go stock and chicken hawk, right? I absolutely love that we have MAGA here because you know what? It shows me just how much we bother y'all. And that's okay because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to bother y'all. Because in that process, we help ourselves grow and get powerful too. Because the right people are here to hear our message. And this is why we do what we do here. The power of the Black community is beyond compare. You give us one bean, baby, we're going to feed the whole neighborhood. You couldn't even breastfeed your own babies. You gave your babies to us to breastfeed. We helped you build this country. And whether you like it or not, and whether you decide if you're going to close your eyes to it and move forward, we're still going to be progressive. Otherwise, you wouldn't be following behind us. Now, I have a lot of free things for you as well, really easy. And there will be a change real soon. But right now, you can get all the free information and a couple of things to help you level up for your life journey goals. I don't believe in resolutions. I believe in goals. And you can break them down in a year. You can break them down in 6 months, and you can break it down into quarters. So you can get that at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. What a great conversation. I absolutely love being with my sisters. This is my power hour every day. It uplifts me. And I'll be very honest, I've been suffering from depression in the last 2 years, but this show always uplifts me and I look forward every day. And I hope that it does the same thing for you. That's what we do here. So today's conversation reminds us just how much the Black community has done, not just for ourselves, but for everyone else seeking equality and opportunity in this country. It's time we not only demand acknowledgement, but also ensure we benefit from the systems that we help to build. To our panel, Moya and Marlo and Constance, thank you for your thought-provoking insights. And to our audience, let's carry these lessons forward as we continue to push for the respect and equality we deserve. And until next time, that'll be Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Keep mastering your mindset and maximizing your money. See you soon. Peace out.